morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Welcome to NYSA Presents, where you see what you've been missing in 3D. And welcome to New York. I'm your host, Johnny Laser, and I'll be taking you on a 3D journey today that leads you to the wonderful world of fractals, courtesy of Joe Pedoto's Anaglyph Jukebox series, and then to NASA, courtesy of Jim McManus and his Life is 3D series. While we're on the subject of NASA, they've been kind enough to schedule a rocket launch tonight that will generate what amounts to northern lights over the east coast of the United States, in honor of our last show of the season, of course, and we thank them for their thoughtful pyrotechnic display in our honor. And I want to take a few minutes to introduce you to our multi-talented crew. So we're going to are you ready for applause? Because you got to do, I can only do so much for you. First of all, David Heiser. He runs our video switching from California. I want to have a long applause for these guys. And Dave Camo. He creates our fancy glyphs and manages our VR. And Jim Harp, who creates the Anaglyph mosaics and created our VR home, amongst other things. And Jay Kuznets, who creates the VR meeting space and manages that content. And last but not least, E.J. Smith, who works the door and manages our content. That team pulls together every week in meetings, calls, emails to create NYSA Presents. And I couldn't be happier working with these amazing creative people. Well, that was a quick 15 weeks, right? Incredible. We started again in February, and here we are already. So, well, I beg your indulgence for a moment while we run a short clip thanking the folks that contributed to our success. As it's been said, content is king, and these folks help supply the content. You can only take so much of me chatting away, you know what I mean? So really, it's an amazing bunch of folks that, we've thanked the others before. So this is just this season, and it's a pretty long list of really generous, intelligent folks. So, if you don't mind, Mr. Heiser, fire away. And as I said, these guys work tirelessly so I don't look foolish, and they make sure everything is working perfectly, that there's not a glitch. And believe me, they ache over any glitches. So again, my applause to them. Thank you very much, folks. I do appreciate all the hard work you do to make me look as good as I do, and not foolish at all. So now, let's begin. Now we're going to begin with, we'll start off with the wonderful series you've learned to appreciate, the Anaglyph Jukebox. Now, we're going to start off with Anaglyph Jukebox on one of my favorite topics, fractals. If you haven't had a chance to read the book Chaos by James Gleick, it's a great book and makes the whole nonlinear dynamics field. Are you getting tired of this? Actually, it's amazing. It's like I can reach the floor from here. That's great. So, that's the story about my background. No, it stays straight while this is actually me, and that's my background in life in general. Can we get a technical person to figure out why I'm upside down? No, I think I live my life this way, quite frankly, and I'm extraordinarily comfortable in that position. So, let me get back to where I was. If you haven't had a chance to read the book Chaos by James Gleick, I think I got his name right. You know me with names, so I could do my best. But anyway, it ain't going to hurt him. It's a great book. It makes the whole nonlinear dynamics field an easy detective story type of a read. As a matter of fact, when I mentioned to Arthur C. Clarke, my pal there, Arthur C. Clarke, I was reading that book. He commented, "Now you're really in trouble, John." And all I could say is, he was right, in the best ways possible. On a different topic, actually, Arthur was the one that introduced me to random dot stereograms via fax I received from him in about 1988, or around that time, but that's another story for another time. I actually got this thing, it only works on an old version of, that's better. There you can see me. Of Windows. It doesn't exist. It's like Windows 3, Windows whatever. Remember that one? And it was called Fractunes, and it allowed you to do all this musical stuff with fractals. If you really don't understand the nature of fractals, get that book. It's like I don't know how I can say this, but it's practically religious in a way. It's a non-religious book. It's an interesting take on everything around us and how it's done in such a simple manner that nature, or say spiritual book. You say religious, you get in trouble, especially now when they're lobbing rockets. Let's see. Okay, I think I pretty much ad-libbed enough, and so without further ado, take us to the Anaglyph Jukebox.
Welcome to today's edition of the Anaglyph Jukebox. You never know what you'll find on the old jukebox. Let's press B31. Okay, we've got fractal 3D magic. Very few mathematicians become rock stars in their own field, much less well known by real people in the wider public sphere where it counts. Einstein, of course. Newton, sure. Then a bit of a drop-off. But everyone has heard the word Mandelbrot, even if you didn't know Mandelbrot was a person's name. Maybe you just thought, Mandelbrot fractals, trippy computer graphics, man. I had a wall calendar of them in my dorm room when I pretended to go to college back in 1986. The Polish-born French-American mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot, who died in 2010, was a polymath and a math genius. He chose to explore the, quote, uncontrolled element in life, unquote. And thus he coined the word fractal in 1975 and wrote a foundational paper in 1980 to describe an intricate-looking set of curves. Sounds simple, doesn't it? It quickly becomes very, very complex. But the computing power of 1975 was not up to the task of generating the mind-blowing imagery we see here today, and in 3D to boot. We had to wait for the technology to catch up to Benoit. These amazing fractal 3D images are all taken from the 2014 book Fractal 3D Magic, with an introduction by Clifford A. Pickover. Featured today are works created by Duncan Champney, Alexei Osipenkov, S. Rathanagiri, and Fernando Vallejo. They were all generated using Fractalworks, a program created by Duncan Champney. In addition to creating fractals, Fractalworks can also create a 3D height map from either iteration data or distance estimate data. Once a height value is assigned to each point, the resulting height map may be rendered as a 3D shape in OpenGL. Now we have fractals across the z-axis. A histogram of iteration counts can be used to assign colors to plots, generating intricate color schemes. Now we have fractals across the z-axis in trippy colors. The Mandelbrot set, or M set for short, is the best known fractal and one of the most beautiful mathematical objects known. According to David Darling, author of Gravity's Arc, the story of gravity from Aristotle to Einstein and beyond. Arthur C. Clarke said this: "In principle, the Mandelbrot set could have been discovered as soon as men learned to count. But even if they never grew tired and never made a mistake, all the human beings who have ever existed would not have sufficed to do the elementary arithmetic required to produce a Mandelbrot set of quite modest magnification." So, in addition to developing paranoia and refusing to open the pod bay doors, please, how? Computers can perform the massive and precise number crunching necessary to display these amazing images. So what are these intricate-looking set of curves? The M set is produced by iteration, or repetition of a very simple formula. Fractals often display self-similarity, with repeating patterns at various scales throughout an image. A fractal also exhibits similar structural details no matter how much the edge of the object is magnified. Although finite in area, the M set has a boundary that is infinitely long and has a Hausdorff dimension of 2. For point of reference, the Anaglyph Jukebox has a Hausdorff dimension of 9. For the slow kids, we'll just quickly explain that Felix Hausdorff, a German founder of modern topology and a contributor to set theory, created the Hausdorff dimension, which gives a way of assigning a fractional dimension to a curve or shape. His abstract math was denounced as useless and un-German by the Nazi regime of his time, and in 1942, with a concentration camp in his future, he died by suicide with his wife and sister-in-law. Unfortunately, not everyone's story on the Jukebox ends happily. It certainly seems a shame that Professor Hausdorff never got to see any of the incredibly complex and dimensional fractals we're enjoying right now. As a mathematician, I'm sure he would have been delighted to see these abstract equations rendered with such infinite precision.
Great job again, man. What great work. We've got a lot of those lined up for you still, so when we come back in September, I'm dying to show them to you, but I'll manage to hold on. And I hope you can manage to hold on too. Now we have part 2 of Life is 3D from our good friend Jim McManus and his Life is 3D series. Like I said, I reiterate. Are you ready for me?
Thank you, John. I appreciate you guys having me back for what incredibly is the end of the season already. Time flies quickly when you're having fun, that's for sure. So last time we looked at some of the shots I took while on jobs out at Cape Canaveral during the space shuttle era. And this time we're going to look at some images I did post-shuttle. This job was for the United Launch Alliance, the ULA. And I want you to notice how clean the control room looks compared to the old shots of mission control back in the days of Apollo, where every single workstation had a giant, ashtray full of butts next to it. And you could just, the thickness of the air. You're like, how did those machines ever survive? But I guess they didn't have much computing power to begin with, so that's okay. But anyway, this is the Atlas V Launch Control Center, and a launch was actually going to take place later that day. So we were doing interviews with the key people in the launch control, and then later, go ahead and go to the next one, we went out on the pad, and we actually, this is me, yours truly, getting a shot. Of course, everybody's got to get a shot with the rocket in the background. And you notice here, we're still, 100 yards away from it or so, and we did get to go up right to the base. Next, with myself and my cameraman Victor, and just basically we were doing our own thing in the morning until later when we hooked up with our news correspondent, where we had to do on-camera interviews and things like that. So we really got to explore the place by ourselves. Here's the Atlas V rocket in a slightly hyper view because flat, it's just so big you don't really see anything with a normal interocular. So I probably took this with maybe a 9 or 10 inch spacing or something like that, but it's beautiful, gleaming in the morning sun. And here is Michael Gass. He was the president of ULA at the time, pointing out a model of their next generation of shuttle. It looks like a tiny space shuttle on the top of that heavy lift rocket. And this is a good example of being in the right place at the right time with the right equipment, because I took a few pictures with my W3, and you know that the W3 has that nice auto stereo window on the back, so you can show it to people without glasses. And once I showed Michael a few shots, he was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Do a few portraits of me. And later on, I ended up, selling him a few portraits for his wall. This gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he was instrumental in the Mars Curiosity rover program at the time. So this is a scale model of the Curiosity rover that he had in his hand. And we did some really neat stuff. And it was neat, to see these things develop into fruition in the intervening years. And here's a good example of a bunch of cameras set up for the launch. Now, I want you to notice that some of them have good housings around them. Some of them have just plastic bags. I wouldn't trust that being so close to the launch site. Now, some guys were wise and got a real heavy-duty housing, and also, even more importantly, anchored it to the ground. You can see it's actually hooked in, strapped into a eye bolt sticking up out of the tarmac. Now, let's see what happens if you don't take such precautions. You get a graveyard littered with dead cameras. So, they probably have some interesting footage, let's hope, until the moment where they got blown backwards. But that's a good example. You can see they're right at, this is actually, a few hundred yards from the launch tower. And here's the classic vehicle assembly building. Everybody knows it. It's the iconic, image of Cape Kennedy. And when I say Cape Kennedy, I really mean it's officially called Cape Canaveral, but it's actually associated with the Canaveral Air Force Station, where we went for the Atlas V launch. But Cape Kennedy, this is the classic clock that everybody has seen in shots of everything from the Apollo missions all the way up through the shuttle program. And I've seen it up close a number of times. But I went on this ULA job, I noticed, go ahead and go to the next one, that they had switched out the clock with a nice new LED clock. So no longer are you just suffering looking at old, LCD like alarm clock digits. You have, pictures and nice graphics and things like that. So it's wonderful too to see at night. A night launch is always spectacular, but now that thing really shows up. This was our NBC correspondent, Jane Wells. She's great. I've worked with her a number of times. And this is the second day that we were out there on this particular job. And this was actually for the launch of Orion. This was a few years back, and it was the first step into deep space. It was the first heavy lift rocket, long before the Falcon Heavy, long before SpaceX did their thing. And this guy is now the administrator of Johnson Space Center. His name's Mark Geyer. And we were trying to get a nice angle on him and still see the nose cone of Orion, but it was difficult. So we had to creep up and up and up and go up the side of the building, up these skinny little stairs. And we finally settled on this angle for our interview. So you could see the tip of the rocket, but still see him as well without looking up his nose, basically. So, it's fun just getting to crawl around inside these various sites. When I was in here, one of the things that always stuck with me is that Mark told me, he said, I don't know if you guys realize, but you're the first civilians to be in this room since this program began. And a chill went up my spine. I'm like, oh my God, I'm very privileged on some of these jobs. So go to the next one. Now, this is the Orion itself ready to launch. You can see it's actually got 3 booster rockets, which at the time had been the most that had ever been fired at once. So everybody was worried, are these things going to is it going to go sideways? Because they all have to be so precisely controlled in the amount of fuel that's mixed. And it's just amazing. So again, getting to walk all around this thing. Now down on Canaveral Air Force Station, we were looking for a good spot to do interviews later on that day. And we come across this concrete bunker looking structure. And I was like, that's curious. We walk up to it and go to the next one. Turns out this is right where the Apollo 1 astronauts died in the fire during a training exercise on the ground. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it and just talking about it right now, because we literally just kind of discovered it by accident. This is not on any public tour, and but anyway, that's a very somber moment. This was for the actual launch day, which kept getting delayed, and we were out there 3 additional days just to film the launch. This was our spot right across the Banana River, which is a little inlet on the east coast of Florida. And so we're literally as close as you can physically be to a launch without violating safety rules, without working for NASA. And and it's not every day you get to meet an astronaut named Tom Jones. Who knew, maybe he can sing too. I don't know. But I thought if I ever met Tom Jones, it'd be the singer. So this guy was great. And he spent a long time with us doing commentary, basically play by play of the entire launch. And the next shot, you can see us all huddled around the monitor, and our neighbors next door to us there from the Weather Channel come over to look at our feed, because we have the best feed around, let me tell you. And we were constantly on pins and needles, like, is it going to go? And then with the countdown would reach a certain point and they would hold. But finally it went up, and we were just all super thrilled. And to see this thing, I tell you what, I've witnessed a lot of launches up close, and the sound is what always gets me. I mean, it's visibly amazing, but the sound, and this thing really thundered my chest. I mean, it was just a real audible because of those 3 rockets firing. You go to the next shot and you'll see a little bit. These are 2 shots that my satellite operator, the satellite truck driver, actually took, because he had a monster lens, a nice camera with big monster lenses. So he was camped out on the top of his sat truck getting these awesome shots. And this wasn't in 3D, but I converted it to 3D for him. And you can just see, I mean, the thing almost looks holy, you know. It looks like a cathedral going up. Looks like the spires of an old cathedral or something. And it was just very, very impressive. And it's one of the jobs that still brings, a little bit of a tear to my eye. The next shot is after the flight. It's going to go one of 2 ways. It's either going to be successful or it's going to fail spectacularly. And so they're going to either have one of 2 very different press conferences. And of course, this was the good kind of press conference, where they got to relay all the tracking data and the success of the mission. And it was a great time all around. And that's Jane on the left and Jody, our producer, on the right. Now, this job will end with a few days spent on this job for SpaceX. This was actually the day up until this point, they had not successfully landed the booster rockets on the ship without blowing them up. So this turned out to be a very historic day because they were able to do that this day. So we're trouncing around pad 39A, which is the classic launch tower that everybody associates with all way back to the Saturn V missions. And you can see this housing is built for the shuttle. That would actually sit right, basically that would wheel when the shuttle rolls up on the mobile launch platform that I showed you guys last time. This structure would then wheel in front of it and enclose it basically before it was launch time, so they could continue servicing the shuttle. So we're going around all this monster structure, and we're looking at all this crazy machinery, like these hydraulic and pneumatic systems that control all the blast dampening and everything, and all the the tower rolling away and the struts pulling back. And we're interviewing a couple of engineers. Go ahead to go to the next one. Who were I guess they didn't make the cut. That's okay though. I'll just tell you that we're interviewing a couple of engineers when we get the call that, oh yeah, we're going to get to interview Elon Musk. So suddenly we scramble into hyperdrive mode, and you can see my crew here gearing up with extra cameras. And it was just a matter of minutes until Elon showed up. And we proceeded to do we thought we would get a few minutes with him, because literally it's launch day. Like, I'm amazed we got him at all. But we were able to spend 90 minutes with him, and we actually walked all the way up from the base up to the top of Launch 39's tower, up to the very tip top, and go to the next one. And it was just great being able to hear him talk about his vision of the future and his vision of space on the top of this history-filled tower. And it's funny because the wind was blowing, and I had to triple wind gag my microphone to hear without distortion. And we could hear a few creaks in the tower. And, one of us made a joke about it, and Elon goes, "Oh, don't worry, it's the finest of 1960s technology." So on my way down and out to my car at the end of this amazing day, I see this bumper sticker, and I'm like, okay, awesome. These guys always have something new in the works. This was the beginning of the New Horizons mission, which took us to Pluto, and which we've probably all seen fantastic images of at this point, thanks to Brian May. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you joining me again. It's been a wonderful season, and I hope you've enjoyed all my segments, and I look forward to doing more in the future.
Oh, man. That was great. That was just wonderful.
That made it all worth it.
Of course. 2 questions.
Yep.
You think that Elon Musk should order maybe a shirt or a pair of pants from Amazon? I'm thinking.
Dude, I know. Is it nothing but black tees and black pants? Yeah.
But I should talk. I got a closet full of.
No, you mix it up.
Well, thank you very much for that. I got the laser blazer. I'll put away for now. But 2 questions. I didn't want to interfere with that because that was just so much fun, and I didn't want to break in. Insect life out there. I mean, while you're waiting for this grand, wonderful thing to take off.
Yeah.
I mean, are you getting eaten alive out there or what?
It is swampy, so sure. Yeah, you can get mosquito bit pretty good. The secret to that is eat more onions. Just put some more onions in your diet, and you'll be a natural repellent.
That's the answer. You want to
It
be an
literally will
astronaut?
come out of your pores. I'm kind of not kidding about that. Literally, I love onions anyway, but I usually get bitten the last out of anybody on the crew. So if I'm getting bit, it's really bad.
Okay, now you brought that up. Now you eating that onion like an apple?
No.
Okay.
No.
This I
I'm
gotta
not that
know.
hardcore. No, I'm not crazy.
Okay, well explain that then. So because you can't leave us with the cure for mosquitoes and not because I have no. What do you chop them? What do you do?
No, I just eat them in everything. Mix them up, throw them in some eggs.
Whoa.
Yeah, just on sandwiches. Just order sandwiches with onions, basically, and that's
perfect.
all. Just have a nice garlic too. Garlic's a wonderful thing. But I tell you, John, what you have to be more concerned with when you're out there staking out a launch and you're stuck on the news site and you really can't go anywhere, and God help you if you do and it goes up. You got to consider where you're going to go to the bathroom, when you're going to go. So you got to really sort of strategize your personal missions.
Okay, I got it. Eat onions and don't drink water. And that definitely clears the launch pad because I'm sure people stay way away at that point. Not only do you have a problem, yeah, right.
I thought you were going to ask me when you mentioned insects, what's the animal life like out there? And there's a bunch of alligators and stuff. But what happens when it's launch time? You'll see pictures. Actually, if you're curious, in your free time, Google NASA frog, just NASA frog, and you'll see these awesome pictures of a frog that got caught in the middle of a camera shot flying through the air, and he's like literally like this. So I mean, the wildlife that doesn't have the good foresight to get out of the way might have an interesting day.
But what does wildlife? That's while we're on that subject. So, okay, so what does wildlife? Do you notice a reaction like things get quiet or what happens?
As soon as they light up, as soon as they light the candle, they call it, birds start scattering. I mean, it's just just flocks of birds out of the trees on the river, on the water side. And there's actually, I didn't include it in this slideshow, but I did earlier in an earlier version. I had a shot of a gopher tortoise, which is literally, he has a home and he's been there forever, right out front of the VAB. So he's got like the best view in the world. He's like right next to the countdown clock practically. And I just wonder, if he comes out for the launch or if he stays there,
That's very interesting. Now, how long are you guys stationed out there?
There it is.
Oh, there it is, man. I love those guys. They can put me upside down, but this is the thing. They can nail this right now.
You see all the grass. You see everything that just got ripped up from the ground, and that poor frog, wrong place, wrong time.
That's very interesting.
Or the best ride of his life. You never know.
Now, do you know how are the launch pads themselves? Is there a lot of insect life out there, or can you get around without all that stuff?
Oh yeah, it's not too bad. And most of it, where we're going is all concreted over, so we're not trudging through the woods, for the most part. But we have, plenty of times, and that's when it can get interesting.
And when they let the crew out, that area you have over there, what did they tell you about those problems? In other words, you got to go to bed. Are you instructed on anything, or it's your own?
No. You just got to be smart. You got to, like Patton said, never miss an opportunity to eat or go to the bathroom. So, and then hopefully the SAT truck operator has a bottle on the bottle on the truck in case of an absolute dead, emergency.
Yeah, but you got to do what you got to do. That's the thing that's really very fascinating.
Yeah. It's a whole ecosystem. And another shot that I didn't include was one just looking down the line of press, which were just endless rows, on this particular stretch of beach, because that's the very best place to shoot launches from.
And in terms of security, what do they require?
I had to go, everything I've done out there, you have to get clearance ahead of time. You have to go through the official press site. They actually have a press, division and an office. You have to go out there ahead of time and get an ID. I mean, it was tight before 9/11. Let's put it that way. And then after September 9/11, it was just the security ramped up. Let's put it that way. So you had to pass, background check. I'm sure if you had any spottiness on your records, you might not be able to go shoot the launch. So they'd be looking for a new sound man.
And most of the shots you took were with the W3, or
from this group they were post shuttle, because everything I did before the shuttle for the most part was before the W3 was around. I think that came out in 2010, and they ended the shuttle program in 2012. This I think these pictures today started in 2014 and went up through a few years after that.
And what did they tell you? They must give you some instructions as to, although it seems pretty freaking obvious, if the rocket something should happen. and it should go awry. They must tell you something to do. I mean, it's obvious what you're going to do. You're just going to go, I'm going to get killed. Or
they don't tell you anything.
They don't tell you anything.
No. It's basically assumed that we are being put in a safe place, that we are well out of danger's reach, And you got to remember, when you look at these launches on a monitor, it looks like they're going straight up, but they're going out over the ocean almost all the time, So it's going away from us. And if the explosion did occur, the trajectory would still be, the momentum would still be carrying it that direction for the most part. So, on land, we're probably safe, but anything can happen, high upper winds.
And do they tell you what will happen now? What if something does happen? Did they tell you anything about what to do with your footage?
That's interesting. I've never been a part of that particular discussion, but I would imagine, I don't really know if they would even try to cap it, try to control it these days. There might have been back in the day, because obviously now everybody has a cell phone. So if they tried to take our footage, what about all the people on the beach that were in, the public a few miles down the beach? There's obviously
there could be like a forensic reason for taking it.
Well, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I see what you're saying. And that's true. They would probably they would put in a request for everybody's footage.
Put in a request. Okay.
Sure.
But they don't cover that. Well, because you probably, are you in that, you might not be in that food chain that they say like what to do, because they must have, I'd like to believe they have a procedure.
Yeah, I know. Right.
At this point in time, it's kind of, yeah. Well, I trust
NASA.
wonder
a couple of times. I had to wonder because, right at the press site, not on the beach where we filmed Orion from, but at the press site where the clock is next to the VAB, right behind you is like a press, or was, they've torn it down since then, was some bleachers that VIPs could sit on and watch. And I mean, you would hear the metal roof above that thing just flapping when they lit the candles. It would be like, because the noise was so intense. And, it was a couple times it seemed like maybe we're a little too close. I don't know. But it was always a thrill, I tell you. It was always just, and whenever I recorded audio, I had to watch for peaking because the needle would just go, get buried to one side.
How about backwash? Do you get a wind?
No, I don't think I've ever felt a blast. We're not that close. That would be, if you felt wind, you're going to feel debris if there is any. So that's probably, we're out. I think the closest I've ever been is that 2.5 mile, because it's basically 2.5 miles from the VAB out to the pad. And we're right next to the VAB when it launched. That's where mission control is.
2.5 miles. Okay, that makes sense. That would certainly make sense.
Yep.
You wouldn't feel it, but
if you're a member of the public, you can't go any closer than I think 5 miles.
But you feel that rumble, right? You feel that rumble.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, it's fantastic. Yeah, I can see them from my house here in Orlando. I can see the launches, but I can't hear them. I'm waiting for the day when the wind's just right when I can hear it that far.
Well, I will say. Well, tonight I hope maybe some people came late, but if you're on the East Coast up to about Pennsylvania they're launching something tonight, and you might be able to see. Basically, it's for a reason, coloring the sky. For some kind of NASA reason. So you'll be able to see. I'm sure you're going to be out there looking now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I got trees to that direction, but I will be looking. It's always great. The Life is 3D was so much fun, and I can't wait to see what other mischief you come up with.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Oh man, I'll give you another round of applause because you.
Yeah, bonus. Nice. I love it. I love sharing these little glimpses into unknown sort of areas of our lives in 3D.
Yeah. That is fantastic. Well, again, thank you. We're gonna keep moving on. I'll see you in the after party because I'm sure people are going to still have. I'm sure I didn't cover all of it. That seems common. See you later.
Sounds good.
Well, I'm going to end with I'm going to share the screen in a moment with a picture from a party. Let's see. I have my view here on gallery view so I can see everybody. With a picture from a party, because remember, party was the subject. I'm going to show you this. This is our celebration of 100 years of film, which we did back a few years ago. Boy, it goes quick. It's like 6 years ago. It's incredible outfit. This year's going like crazy, right? We're in June, half the year's shot. Not big on that, you know what I mean? I don't know how many summers I got left. So I'm budgeting those, if you know what I'm saying. I'm sure I'm not the only one out there thinking that way. You hate to, but anyway, it's going by quick, and we're going to get to September quick, and it's going to be I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful summer. We're going out. That's good. And before you know, we'll be meeting in person. So, I'm going to end with this picture and a little thing for you right afterwards. Hold on. It's a special party celebrating the 100th anniversary of 3D film. The first of which was shown in Anaglyph in Times Square on June 10th, 1915, at the Astor Theater. We had the party at the precise location of the Astor Theater, which had been torn down years before and replaced with the Marriott Marquis. And the Marriott Marquis rented us the Astor Ballroom. We had over 300 people, and it was I will say this, unless you can come up with another one, I don't think you can, was the biggest 3D celebration in the history of New York. I don't know, I don't think there was a bigger one. I'm pretty confident. Matter of fact, I challenge anyone to find a bigger one. And an entire crowd of folks who love 3D and viewed everything from a video by Robert Fermanac, the 3D archives, and he also spoke. And we had folks with the 3D laser projectors, which were going in the theaters at that time. And we screened One Night in Hell from Brian May and London Stereoscopic. And we also had, among other things, wonderful, beautiful Ikuo Nakamura's great work with the Northern Lights, as well as several other films. And in conclusion of this great event, the whole crowd was led on a chorus of Happy Birthday by the following video. You can chime in if you like, though it's a little early for the 106th anniversary next month, but who's counting? Everybody get ready to blow. Blow! I'm going to thank my lovely wife, because this is, it was very easy for her to take a kitchen knife and point it at me. So that was the easiest direction I ever had. So, do we have fun? All of you. Do we have fun? We're just a fun bunch, man. All I can say is whoever's here, you're lucky you found this bunch of people, because they're just so creative and enjoyable. And they're always good for a good laugh, man. There's not one person here that's a crier. They're all good for a good laugh, man. And again, I want to thank you folks for making us a success.